Welcome to this second look at the fleet. We're now going to look at the years 2010, oh look at that handsome devil, through to the present day, here in November 2018. First, there's a few cars I missed in the first video, including an Acadian, but I also missed this gorgeous Alfa Romeo 164 V6 Lusso automatic. I shall let it speak for itself. Marvellous. Anyway, the fleet as of 2010, we moved to Wales. Here's the BX being loaded up with house stuff, and we also had the CX, that's in Wales, where it was quite snowy. The Mini came with us. The Westminster I sold at auction, sadly, so that didn't make it. And of course there was Ellie, the 2CV as well. Once we moved here, I decided I needed a Land Rover, so I sold the CX and bought a county station wagon, a V8. Yeah, I wasn't really doing the good life properly, and nor did it get any better, because I sold the Land Rover and replaced it with Reliant Scimitar. It's the SE5A Ford SX V6. Look at that interior. Yeah, I was soon tired of that and got a Saab 9000 to replace it. And this was a one owner from New Car. I sold it to Gavin, Mr. Petrol Blog himself. There it is with the fleet. That's early 2011. And then I got rid of the Saab and bought a Range Rover. It was terrible. It had been converted from a V8 Auto to a VM manual. I had all sorts of electrical problems with it, but it was very good off-road. But eventually I got fed up with the fact it didn't work and managed to swap it for a Rover 75, the most modern car I'd ever owned at that point. I did love the interior, but I didn't really get on with the car. It just felt too big and heavy for me. So I wasn't keen. So when a friend offered me some money and a Peugeot 309, I leapt at the opportunity. And then sure enough, I didn't really like the 309 very much. The interior build quality was just terrible. So, oh, there's the Range Rover pulling another project home before I got rid of it. It's a Mark 1 BX, very rare Mark 1 BX estate. And there's Pebble the cat checking it out. She wasn't very impressed, but it turns out she was more impressed than Mrs. HubNut was. She couldn't quite believe what I'd done, but I did get it working. I did get it on the road, and it still looks like that to this day. Then I acquired a Ford Maverick because I wanted to go off-roading, and it was surprisingly capable, to be fair. I mean, that wheel's a good foot or two off the ground. It was brilliant. Then I got my first Nissan Bluebird. This is an early Japanese built T12, note the pantograph wiper, and yeah, watch that action. Oh, isn't that just pornographic? I should be playing sort of, you know, some cheesy music over the top of that. But I didn't like the Bluebird much, so I replaced it with a Citroen BX turbo diesel, my first turbo diesel. Also the first car I had on winter tyres, and it was superb on them. There was another 2CV that came, was too rusty and I got rid of, but it stayed long enough for a group shot. And yes, that is yet another BX behind it. That one had done over 300,000 miles and felt it, but still it worked hard for its living until I got rid and went to someone who'd owned it previously, I think. There was also a W124 300E, which spent a lot of time looking like that because I couldn't get it running right. So I sold it to a friend, and this Germanic phase continued with a Mark II Golf driver, which I really didn't like at all. So I decided that year, I think this is 2013, I'd treat myself, so I bought myself a Land Rover Discovery. Look at those sexy side graphics. There are videos on this car. This is the start of the video era, but I swapped it for another BX with Rich, Mighty Dacia fame. And then I found this beauty, a little Daihatsu Sirion, 1 litre. Absolutely loved it. That's it, done at head, right at the top of Scotland, where we went to see the Northern Lights, but that was about all we saw. So that was the state of the fleet for the time. Mrs. HubNut was happy to drive either of the small cars. Awesome acceleration. Yeah, I just adored that car, and then I got rid of the BX and we had just the 2 cars. and but sadly the Sirion was rusty. I ended up swapping it for a Maestro van. Look how impressed that sheep is. And that was a surprisingly pleasant drive, considering I'd had a Maestro hatchback and didn't like it. But then I sold it 2 months later and bought this Rover to get home. It had been on a banger rally. Mrs. HubNut was not impressed and soon set to removing the graphics. And it must be said that car did get steadily more attractive the more bits came off. But while I owned that car, I went to visit a friend who had an XM, and that made me want an XM. So I found this one, and it had been parked up for a while, but I got it on the road, and this was a very happy ownership. I had this XM 2.1 turbo diesel for 18 months, lots of videos on the channel about this particular car. But that was our fleet for a time. Then we got the Nippa. So Mrs. HubNut in March 2013 we got that, and Mrs. HubNut was very happy. She's loved that little car ever since. So we were a 3-car family again. And then 4, because Ellie came off the road because she was too rusty. So I rescued this Dyane, rebuilt the engine. There's videos all on this as well. One winter, got it back together, and then moved that onto a new home. I got a free Volvo. Go and check out the free Volvo video. It was terrible. Then I got a Honda Prelude 4th gen 2-litre automatic, but it just wasn't practical enough, despite that shot of it transporting some sawdust briquettes. But the bigger controversy was that I sold the XM this year and replaced it with a RAV4. That's 2016, I think. And I liked the RAV4. It was a bonny little car, and a great little tow car it turned out. And there it is, bringing Ellie home after her restoration. So that was, yes, towards the end of 2016. In the middle of 2016 I bought this Mitsubishi Colt, but didn't get on with it. It was 3-speed auto, and that was the lucky owner who had it off me. And then the Nippa was joined by the Rover 600, which I like. I mean, a beautiful car. And don't think I'm mad for saying that. I mean, we took it to France, had a lovely holiday in France with it, but then sadly a few weeks after getting back it left a trail of gearbox oil through a classic car show, had the shame of it being transported home by the AA, and then even bigger shame when the AA managed to ruin it. He tried reversing and that happened, and that car ruined. So I replaced it with a Honda SMX, but I didn't know if I'd like it or not, but I did. I wasn't sure about the orange wheels when I painted them at first, but I have to admit, here it is at Japfest. I think it looks absolutely superb. Another happy ownership. There was briefly this Citroen ZX that threw a wheel bearing on the way home. Go and check that one out. But I just didn't get on with that car at all, so that didn't hang around long either. So then there was the Omega. So we've got 2CV back on the road, Omega with no MOT that I bought and fixed up, and buoyed with success, I then went and bought this dodgy Daimler XJ40, and it had a lovely fuse box that had melted, which is a shame because it was a lovely looking car and it drove fairly well for its age. But yeah, I got it home and then it didn't seem to want to work again, which was annoying. So I thought the best thing to do was to buy a Nissan Bluebird with a failed head gasket. Lots of videos on how that went. So it's my driveway starting to look like a scrapyard full of broken cars. But I got stuck in and soon had the head off and got it all sorted out at huge expense. So that was the fleet at that particular time, plus the Nippa out of shot. And then the Nippa had a Malaysian friend when I acquired this Proton for £50. It was pretty terrible with no MOT, but again I managed to fix it up, get it back on the road. Stunning sunset there. And then the fleet looked like this. A right mix of vehicles, plus Ellie was in the garage for that shot. But I got bored of the Bluebird and swapped it for a Lexus, mostly because of pantograph wiper joy, and also something to do with a V8. But it was a rather large car, far bigger than the little Nippa. But it was the Lexus I was driving when I met the Invacars for the first time, and this is where I met a certain Took. There she is, as I found her a year ago. Quite remarkable. That's when I got Took and the parts car home, and then I swapped the Lexus for, well, I sold the Lexus and bought a Toyota Starlet to get home, which was alright, but left me a bit cold. But the bigger news, this is earlier this year, is I got rid of the Honda. There it is with its new owner, about to depart for a new life. It's still going well. And then we went to Romania, me and Rich, where we bought a Dacia. and drove it home with only a few problems along the way. And yeah, a veritable menagerie on the driveway. I was really happy with the fleet at this point, such a mixture. And of course the Fox was up the front there. And now we're up to the present day. So yeah, there's the Rover, which is soon to be departing, and the Matiz, which I acquired on the same day back in July. Complete madness. So yeah, what next? Stay tuned. Hopefully this Sunday you'll find out. And yeah, thank you for watching. Farewell.